Welcome, dear listener, to the amber resonance of sleeping stones. Thank you for choosing to spend this time with us, preparing for a period of deep rest and gentle enchantment. If you find comfort and tranquility in our stories, we warmly invite you to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more peaceful journeys designed to soothe the mind and spirit. Before we venture onto the quiet expanse of the Sunstone Mesa, we will begin with a short breathing guidance to help you settle in and release the day. Should you prefer to drift directly into the story, you can find the chapter timestamps conveniently located in the description below. Please take this moment to find a truly comfortable position. Let yourself sink softly into your bed or chair, feeling the gentle support beneath you. Adjust your pillows, draw up your blankets, creating a cozy, safe haven just for you. This interlude is yours alone, a time to let the edges of the day soften, inviting quietude and calm to fill your space. Allow the thought of the Sunstone Mesa, with its warm earth and humming stones, to begin guiding you toward a state of peaceful relaxation. Now, let us take a slow, calming breath together. Inhale gently through your nose, feeling the air fill your lungs easily, naturally without effort. Then exhale softly through your mouth, perhaps like a quiet sigh releasing any lingering tension. With each easy breath, feel your body becoming softer, heavier, more relaxed. Imagine the warmth of the Sunstone Mesa radiating gently upwards, a comforting sensation spreading through your limbs. Picture the soft amber glow of the sleeping stones. Feel their subtle, calming hum. If thoughts from the day drift into your mind, simply acknowledge them gently, like clouds passing overhead in a vast, clear sky, and then softly return your focus to the sensation of your breath or the sound of my voice. There is nothing else you need to do right now but rest, listen, and allow the story's gentle current to carry you towards sleep. Feel the steady, quiet rhythm of the mesa, a peaceful pulse inviting you to let go of worries and cares. Let the gentle resonance soothe you. Now, let us begin our journey to the Sunstone Mesa, where the quiet magic of the sleeping stones awaits to guide you into serene and restful slumber. Chapter 1: Threshold of Quiet. The path Finnian had followed wound gently upwards, the air growing clearer and somehow quieter with each step. It wasn't merely the absence of sound, but a quality of stillness that seemed to settle over the land like fine dust. As the sun dipped towards the unseen horizon, painting the vast overarching sky in tender strokes of lavender, rose, and pale apricot, he reached the edge of the Sunstone Mesa. It stretched before him, immense and serene, a high, flat expanse that felt like the top of the world, hushed and waiting. He stood there for a long moment, simply breathing in the clean, dry air, faintly scented with dust and something herbal, perhaps thyme crushed underfoot earlier in the day. The ground beneath his worn boots felt surprisingly warm, holding the memory of the sun's long caress. It was a comforting sensation, a subtle welcome that seeped into the soles of his feet, easing some of the deep weariness that had settled into his bones during his long travels. The world he had left behind felt distant now, its clamor and hurry unable to reach this tranquil plateau. As his eyes adjusted to the softening light, he began to notice them scattered across the mesa like fallen stars or stones, smooth and rounded, glowing faintly with a soft internal amber light. The glow was gentle, unassuming, yet distinct against the darkening earth, and carried on the faintest whisper of an evening breeze. He could almost perceive a sound, or perhaps a feeling, a low, incredibly subtle hum, like the deep, slow breath of the earth itself. It resonated not just in his ears, but somewhere deeper within his chest. He walked slowly, carefully, onto the mesa proper, the silence amplifying the soft crunch of his footsteps on the packed earth. The sheer scale of the place was humbling. The sky felt enormous, stretching endlessly above, already beginning to show the first pinpricks of starlight. He spotted, nestled amongst a cluster of low, weathered rocks, a simple dwelling. It looked crafted from the earth itself, with rounded walls and a low roof that seemed to grow organically from the landscape. Smoke, pale and thin, curled from a small chimney, promising warmth within. This, he knew, must be the place Fleya had spoken of in her quietly penned letter, a place of refuge, of stillness. He approached the door, made of sturdy, sun-bleached wood, and hesitated only a moment before knocking softly. There was no immediate answer, only the vast silence and the almost felt hum of the stones. He tried the handle, it turned easily. Pushing the door open, he peered inside. The interior was simple, clean and welcoming. A small hearth held glowing embers, casting a warm, flickering light on the smooth earthen walls. A comfortable-looking pallet bed was covered with thick, woven blankets, and a sturdy wooden table and chair stood near the hearth. Dried herbs hung in fragrant bundles from the low rafters. It felt like a space designed for rest, for quiet contemplation. There was no sign of Aoife, but the air felt peaceful, lived in, and utterly safe. Finnian stepped inside, pulling the door gently shut behind him. The silence within the small dwelling was even more profound, cocooning him. He shed his travel pack, letting it slide to the floor with a soft thud, the sound quickly absorbed by the quiet. He moved towards the hearth, holding out his hands to the gentle warmth of the embers. The heat felt good, chasing away the slight chill of the evening air. He sank onto the edge of the pallet bed, the weariness of his journey washing over him in a heavy wave. Yet, underneath the fatigue, there was a growing sense of relief, of having finally arrived somewhere truly peaceful. He looked around the small room, noticing the smooth amber stone resting on the table, larger than the ones he'd seen outside, glowing with a steady, soft light. He could feel its gentle warmth even from across the room, and the low, resonant hum seemed a fraction more perceptible here, a soothing undercurrent to the silence. He closed his eyes, breathing deeply, letting the quietude of the Sunstone Mesa begin its gentle work. Chapter 2. The Gentle Hum of Stones. Finnian woke slowly, not to a sudden sound, but to the gentle, pervasive light of morning filling the small dwelling. Sunlight, clear and warm, streamed through the single window, illuminating dust motes dancing lazily in the air. The fire in the hearth had burned down to pale ashes, but the room remained comfortably warm, holding the night's heat. He lay still for a moment, listening. The silence was still profound, but now it felt less empty, more alive, underscored by that persistent low hum he now recognized as the breathing of the stones. He rose, feeling less weary than he had in a long time, the deep rest having smoothed some of the ingrained fatigue from his muscles. He stretched, feeling the pleasant pull in his shoulders and back, and walked to the door, opening it to the vastness of the Mesa morning. The air was crisp and clean, the sky an unbroken dome of pale blue. The sun, already climbing, cast long, soft shadows from the sparse, hardy shrubs and the scattered amber stones. Their glow was softer in the daylight, almost invisible unless one looked closely, but their presence was undeniable. As he stood surveying the tranquil landscape, a figure emerged from behind a larger rock formation not far from his dwelling. It was a woman, moving with a quiet, unhurried grace that seemed perfectly attuned to the rhythm of the mesa. She wore simple, practical robes the color of dried earth, and her long, dark hair was woven into a simple braid. This must be Aoife, the caretaker. She looked towards him, her expression calm and welcoming, and offered a gentle nod. Finnian nodded back, feeling a natural quietness settle over him in her presence. He walked slowly towards her, his footsteps soft on the earth. She waited patiently, her hands resting lightly at her sides. As he drew closer, he could see the deep peacefulness in her eyes, reflecting the vast sky above. "Welcome to the Sunstone Mesa," she said, her voice soft yet clear in the still air. "I am Aoife. I trust you rested well?" "Very well, thank you," Finnian replied, his own voice sounding a little loud in the quiet. "It is remarkably peaceful here." Fleya smiled faintly, a gentle curving of her lips. "The mesa offers quiet to those who listen for it," she said simply. She gestured towards the scattered stones around them. "These are the reason many seek this place. We call them the sleeping stones." She stooped gracefully and picked up a smooth, palm-sized stone, its amber hue warm in the sunlight. She held it out to Finnian. "Hold it," she invited. He took the stone from her, surprised by its tangible warmth, like it had been lying in the sun for hours, though the morning was still young. It fit perfectly in his palm, smooth and comforting. And then he felt it more clearly than before, the gentle low vibration, humming steadily against his skin. "Feel the resonance?" Fleya asked softly, watching him. Each stone hums its own quiet song. They hold the warmth of the earth and the stillness of the deep rock. When you hold them, when you truly listen, their vibration can help quiet the noise within. It helps the body remember how to rest. Finnian closed his eyes, focusing on the sensation. The vibration was subtle yet undeniable, a steady pulse flowing into his hand, up his arm. He noticed the tension he habitually held in his forearm beginning to soften, almost melting away under the stone's gentle influence. Fleya watched him for a moment longer, then gestured towards the wide expanse. There are many stones across the mesa. Some hum more strongly, some more softly, some feel warmer than others. Walk when you feel inclined. See which stones call to you. There is no need to hurry here. The mesa keeps its own time. She gave another gentle nod and then turned, moving away with that same quiet grace, leaving Finnian standing in the warm sun, holding his first sleeping stone, the gentle hum already beginning to work its subtle magic. Chapter 3. Wandering the Warm Earth. The days that followed settled into a slow, gentle rhythm, dictated only by the sun's arc across the immense sky and Finnian's own inclination. He would wake with the soft light, share a simple breakfast of bread and dried fruit he had brought, and then step out onto the warm earth of the mesa. Fleya was often visible somewhere in the distance, perhaps tending her small garden or simply sitting quietly near a cluster of stones, a still figure in the vast landscape. They exchanged quiet greetings when their paths crossed, but mostly Finnian wandered alone, exploring the tranquil expanse. He learned to walk slowly, deliberately, paying attention to the feel of the ground beneath his feet, the warmth radiating upwards, the whisper of the breeze carrying the dry scent of herbs. He began to truly see the landscape, the subtle variations in the color of the earth, the intricate patterns of lichen on the older rocks, the resilience of the low-growing shrubs with their tiny, tough leaves, and always there were the stones. At first, he simply looked for their gentle amber glow, more visible in the shade or as dusk began to fall. But soon he learned to sense their presence in other ways, a feeling of concentrated warmth, a subtle intensification of that pervasive low hum. He started to discern differences between them. Some stones felt ancient and deep, their hum a slow bass thrum. Others felt lighter, their vibration quicker, almost melodic. He began to collect a few, drawn not by size or brightness, but by a feeling, an intuitive sense of connection. He'd stoop, pick up a promising stone and cradle it in his palm, closing his eyes, feeling its unique resonance. Sometimes a stone felt right, its warmth and hum seeming to align perfectly with a need he hadn't consciously recognized. He would carefully place these chosen few into a soft leather pouch Fleya had silently left for him outside his door one morning. The act of searching, of wandering without a specific goal other than to be present and aware, was deeply calming. His mind, usually so prone to restless thought, gradually quieted. The vastness of the mesa seemed to absorb his anxieties, leaving space for simple observation. He noticed the way sunlight caught the edge of a stone, making it gleam like honey. He watched small, dust-colored lizards skittering over the warm rocks, vanishing in the blink of an eye. He felt the shift in the air as midday heat softened into the cooler balm of late afternoon. Often he would find a comfortable spot, perhaps leaning against a large sun-warmed boulder, and simply sit. He would take one of the stones from his pouch, holding it loosely in his lap or resting it on his chest. He practiced Aoife's gentle instruction. Listen. He focused on the steady warmth seeping into him, the gentle vibration resonating through his body. He noticed with mild surprise how the chronic tightness in his shoulders seemed to loosen its grip, how the furrow in his brow smoothed out. He would feel the warmth spread from his hands, up his arms into his chest, a gentle, pleasant sensation like sinking into a warm bath. The low hum became a grounding anchor, a steady rhythm beneath the silence. He started to consciously relax into it, allowing his muscles to soften, feeling the support of the earth beneath him. It wasn't a sudden change, but a gradual easing, a slow unwinding of tension held for far too long. He was simply wandering the warm earth, listening to the stones, and slowly, gently, finding his way back to himself. Chapter 4. Listening to the Mesa's breath. Time on the Sunstone? Mesa flowed differently. Days weren't marked by clocks or appointments, but by the slow transit of the sun, the subtle shift of shadows, the deepening blue of the twilight sky. Finnian found himself naturally falling into sync with these gentle rhythms. He rose as the eastern sky grew pale, his body feeling rested and ready for the quiet day. He ate simply, walked slowly, rested often. His inner clock, long accustomed to rush and urgency, gradually recalibrated itself to the mesa's unhurried pace. He spent hours simply observing, listening not just to the stones, but to the mesa itself. He learned the sound of the wind sighing through the sparse grasses, sometimes a low whisper, sometimes a slightly stronger murmur. He heard the distant, almost musical chirping of insects that emerged in the cool of the evening. He noticed the profound silence that fell at high noon, when the sun beat down, warming the earth and stones, and even the wind seemed to hold its breath. He began to feel this quietude, not as an absence, but as a presence, the deep, steady breath of the mesa itself. He watched Fleya sometimes from a respectful distance. Her movements were always calm and deliberate, whether she was watering the small, hardy plants in her herb garden near her dwelling, carefully selecting leaves and sprigs, or simply sitting cross-legged on the earth, her eyes closed, seemingly absorbed in the mesa's stillness. Her connection to the place was palpable, an effortless harmony that Finnian found himself quietly aspiring to. She offered him dried herbs for tea, one morning chamomile, and a fragrant minty leaf he didn't recognize, leaving them in a small basket by his door. The simple gesture felt profoundly kind. Often, as evening approached, Finnian would find a favored spot on the western edge of the mesa, where he could watch the sun descend in a blaze of soft oranges, pinks, and golds. He would sit, perhaps leaning back against a comfortably sloped rock, one or two chosen stones resting warmly in his hands or lap. He'd feel their gentle hum resonating through him, a counterpoint to the vast spectacle unfolding in the sky. As the colors faded and the first stars emerged, sharp and brilliant in the clear, dark sky, a profound sense of peace would settle over him. The night sky above the mesa was unlike anything he had ever experienced. Free from the haze and reflected light of settlements, the stars blazed with an astonishing intensity. The Milky Way stretched overhead like a river of faint, shimmering light. He learned to trace the familiar constellations, feeling a connection to countless others who must have gazed upon them throughout time. Holding a warm stone, feeling its steady, ancient pulse, while looking up at the vast, silent universe, grounded him in a way words couldn't capture. He began to notice the subtle interplay between the stones and the environment. Did their hums seem deeper under the full moon? Did their warmth feel more intense after a long day of sunlight? He didn't seek answers, content instead to simply observe, to feel. He practiced letting go of the need to understand everything, focusing instead on the sensations, the pleasant weight of his body resting against the earth, the gentle warmth spreading through his limbs, the soothing vibration lulling his mind into a state of quiet awareness. He was learning to listen, truly listen to the breath of the mesa, and in doing so, hearing the quiet stirrings of peace within himself. Chapter 5. The Resonance Within. Finnian had gathered a small personal collection of sleeping stones over his time on the mesa. Not too many, just half a dozen whose particular warmth and resonance felt most harmonious to him. He took care arranging them within the small dwelling, placing some on the low table, one on the windowsill where it caught the morning light, and a particularly smooth, flat one near the head of his sleeping pallet. Their combined presence filled the small space with a gentle, ambient warmth and a barely audible, deeply soothing hum. The simple room now felt like a sanctuary, a cocoon of peace. He found he no longer needed to consciously hold a stone to feel its effects. Simply being in their proximity, attuned as he now was to their subtle energy, brought a sense of calm. The constant low vibration seemed to gently align his own inner rhythms, smoothing out the jagged edges of lingering anxieties he hadn't even realized he still carried. He slept more deeply than he had in years, waking refreshed, the quiet hum a gentle welcome to the new day. One afternoon, sitting outside his dwelling, simply watching the clouds drift slowly across the vast blue canvas overhead, he felt a profound sense of stillness settle within him. It wasn't just the quiet of the mesa, but an inner quietude he hadn't felt for a very long time. The restless searching, the weary tension that had brought him here had gently dissolved, replaced by a simple, peaceful presence. He realized the journey hadn't truly been about finding magical stones, but about finding the conditions under which his own inner peace could surface. The mesa, Aoife's gentle guidance, and the steady, patient resonance of the stones had simply helped clear the way. He sought out Fleya later that day, finding her sitting near a cluster of particularly luminous stones, sketching patterns in the dust with a twig. He sat quietly nearby, not needing to speak immediately. After a comfortable silence, he said softly, "I think it might be time for me to move on soon." Fleya looked up, her serene gaze meeting his. She nodded slowly. The mesa offers rest, but it does not ask us to stay forever unless our path lies here, as mine does. You have found the quiet you sought. Yes, Finnian replied, the words simple but carrying deep meaning. More than quiet, I found a stillness. The stones helped. He gestured towards the amber gems glowing softly in the late afternoon light. Their warmth, their hum. Fleya smiled faintly. The stones resonate with the peace that is already within you, Finnian. They amplify it, help you hear it again when the world has become too loud. The resonance you feel now, you carry within you. Her words settled comfortably within him. He understood. The magic wasn't solely external. It was a connection, an awakening of something inherent. He wouldn't take any stones with him. They belonged here, on the mesa. But he would carry the memory of their warmth, the feeling of their gentle hum, and most importantly, the profound peace he had rediscovered in their presence. He spent one last evening watching the sunset, feeling the warmth of the earth beneath him, listening to the quiet breath of the mesa and the answering stillness within himself. The weariness was gone, replaced by a calm strength, a gentle readiness for the path ahead, forever changed by the amber resonance of the sleeping stones.